In the heart of the night, this world will burn bright. We will set it alight. In the heart of the night, in the heart of the night, this world will burn bright. We will set it alight. In the heart of the night. Hello everyone, I am Anthropomanic Fiend and I do horror-related things on the internet. I'm doing another movie review and it's in a genre that I thought I was done with for a while. I thought that all the made-for-TV thrillers were put on just that one disc that I did before. No, this disc decided to just throw another one in my face at the last minute and just make the next to last movie on the whole box set another made-for-TV thriller, which I can't say I'm happy about, but it's not a bad movie either. This is Adrift. It's a 1993, as I said, made-for-TV thriller. Again, I'm tired of saying those words. I'm so tired of saying those words. It does have a person of note in it, which is Kate Jackson. I had no idea who she was. Maybe I've seen her face before until my dad walked into the room and was like, "Hey, is that Kate Jackson?" And I checked and I was like, "Yeah." And apparently she was in the show Charlie's Angels and very notable for that. Maybe I need to watch that because I'm not familiar with the show. If that interests you at all, maybe you should watch this. So besides that, the first few notes are that she's in it. It came out in 1993. I just have in all caps, "Oh God, it's another made-for-TV thriller." And then at the very beginning of the movie, or early on, there's a kitty. And before I say anything about this movie, I'm just going to say, if you've got a problem with the kitty getting hurt, don't watch this, because some very gnarly stuff happens to Skipper, the cat, in this movie. So with that out of the way, the plot of this is that a couple go out on a boat. I totally forget why they were going on this trip on their boat. They even have a party to celebrate it at the very beginning of the movie, but I straight up don't remember why they were going. So they go out on a boat and they find this other boat that has only two survivors on it, a man and a woman, that's been adrift for a long, long time, and they bring them aboard the boat, and tension starts to build and there's suspicion all around and things just gradually escalate from there. That's about all of the plot I can really tell you without spoiling stuff. So the music in this movie is good, but pretty unremarkable. It's just good standard issue horror soundtrack, I guess. Same with the acting. It's good, but not really stand out in any particular way. There's one character in particular that I'm going to get to later who yells at people in a voice that is truly terrifying. There's really not that much standout stuff about the acting. It's acting. They act the characters well, but that's about it. I've got the same thing for camera work, production design, characters, all very well crafted, well done, all around, but pretty unremarkable. It's a well-made movie, but it's not remarkable particularly. I'm going to remember stuff about this movie, but I don't know if I'd go back and watch it again. I was definitely tense during this movie, trying to figure out what the characters were going to do next. Everything's very well made. It's just kind of unremarkable. I'm probably never going to watch it again. In terms of recommending this, maybe you'd like it, but it's kind of whatever, take it or leave it for me. So that's pretty much all I can say about this movie before I get into spoilers, except for there are some sort of interesting points brought up, commentary on sort of how lower class people don't get as many chances as upper class people. There's definitely some talk about that and some interesting stuff, but that definitely pertains to spoilers, so I'll get to that in a little bit. And there's some very brutal violence. You don't really see any kind of gore or anything, except for what happens to Skipper, which is disgusting. There's very brutal violence where you don't really see what's happening per se, but it's It's nasty. I'll get into more details about what that is when I get into spoilers, but that's all I can really say about this movie. Solid production, but I would much rather watch something else. That's really all I have to say about Adrift pre-spoilers. And I'm going to bring something up again just now, which is my friend Parker, who's the drummer for my band Scream Into This, is doing a podcast called the Dark Side Podcast, which is going to pertain to real-life paranormal experiences that people have had. If you want to contact him, I'll put his info down here somewhere. He may also be taking fictional scary stories for his podcast. You'd probably have to ask him. I don't really know for sure, but if you have any interest in that, talk to him. I talked about this in my Live from Death Row review as well, but I realized that I put it after all the spoilers, which if people don't want the movie spoiled for them, they're not going to see that. So I just wanted to make sure that's out there because I want to support my friend, but that's that. So spoilers for Adrift. As you could probably guess, the survivors of the ship they find aren't really who they say they are. They claim to be the owners of the ship, but they're really not, and things get creepier and creepier progressively. You find out that they've killed the cat. They find his head in the propeller of the boat, actually, which is just like, poor kitty, because Skipper was my favorite character because cats. They take over the ship, and the main couple have to figure out how to escape because the husband of Kate Jackson's character, whose name is Guy, is a judge, and they have this conversation earlier on about the death penalty because they talk about how they had to kill the other people on the ship because it was us against them. And he's talking, sort of distancing himself from a human perspective and just looking at the whole situation objectively. And the girl that they found gets progressively more and more upset, and she's just like, can you step down from your, I don't know what it was pretty much just step down from your sort of professional point of view and look at this like other people do. And sort of that escalates a little bit, and later on, after we figure out that they've sort of taken over and they've pretty much gotten a hold of all the weapons and stuff, he's got a judge's hammer. Is it called a gavel? I don't remember, but he's got one of those that his friend gave him as a joke with, like, it says justice is truly blind underneath it, and he's just like, oh, that's a friend's in joke. They take it and they end up breaking both of his knees with it and throwing him in the lifeboat behind the ship and dragging him along over the course of the rest of the movie. So it's mostly just Kate Jackson's character trying to figure out how she's gonna escape, and it gets very, very tense. She tries a lot of different stuff, all of which doesn't work. She gets barely sufficiently humiliated by both of them. One of them sticks her hand into the burner on the stove at one point, and you don't see it, but you think about it, and it's pretty nasty. That's essentially the movie, is the two of them trying to figure out how to escape these lunatics who have taken control of their boat, and are also basically trying to adopt their identity and land somewhere else, and they're more or less pirates, I suppose. The message, the commentary in this, besides the whole death penalty thing, which was some interesting food for thought, is we find out that the guy in the, I'm just going to refer to them as the pirate couple from here on, was extremely poor, and he just has this little talk with Kate Jackson's character about how he never got any of the chances she probably got in life, and he just sort of drifted from foster home forever. And his girlfriend, who he's working with, saved his life, like killed a police officer to save him, and is both Kate Jackson's character and her are both kind of using him in interesting ways, because Kate Jackson is trying to turn him on her by pointing out how she's basically using him to her own end, and she's using him to her own end. And he's a bit more sympathetic. They're both kind of a bit more sympathetic, but the girl of the pirate couple is absolutely terrifying. You can't really feel for her, especially since you kind of know things are going downhill. As soon as you see her, she is, when they've rescued her from the ship and she's in the bed, she sits up and she immediately smacks the cat, and you're just like, I'm not gonna like this character. And you don't. You absolutely hate her. She's a nightmare. He's kind of nasty too, but you sort of feel a little bit more for him as things are going along. And he sort of has some moral dilemmas that he's working through on who he wants to work for. So you've got that dynamic going on. Earlier on, there's sort of this thing between Guy and Kate Jackson's character, I cannot remember her name, where he's just like, you're attracted to the guy who we find out is the pirate guy later. And they sort of grow apart. Yeah, once we find out all of that and they break his knees and throw him in the boat, we sort of have a whole monologue about how, now that I'm stuck out here, I just want to be with you, and that's it. And the end of this movie gets pretty intense, because we've got Kate Jackson's character poisons their food, and once the pirate woman realizes that she's been poisoned, she starts going crazy and trying to attack. I don't remember all the details, but it gets fairly intense, and we think that all the characters are dead, and the pirate guy has been thrown off the boat, and she goes out to the lifeboat to help Guy. We get a little jump scare at the very end when the guy jumps out from behind Guy. The guy jumps out from behind Guy. Why did they name him Guy? Because I refer to just characters as guys, and if you name your main character Guy, that's very not helpful. There's just a little jump scare thing, and then he gets stabbed through with a plank of wood, and they sort of drift off on the lifeboat, and that's the end of the movie. So, nice, tense little thriller, but probably not something I'm ever going to watch again. You might like it, but I don't expect it's going to be something you're talking about all that much. And that is Adrift. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I'll have something I like a little better to talk about in the future. I know I will once I circle back around to the beginning of this box set. I've got one more left, and then I get into the movies that I really, really love in this thing. Some absolute garbage that I despise as well, but some masterpieces too. So, hope you enjoyed this. See you in another video, hopefully. Thank you for watching. This is going to be a nightmare to edit later.